We are live. Good morning. It is Friday, December 2nd, here in the lovely town of Boise, Idaho. It is 10:04 in the morning. I have no idea where you are, what time you are watching this. It could be days, weeks, months later. I have no idea. If you are new here, welcome. It is my weekly live stream where I just discuss kind of some nerd stuff that I like and some travel. So this is episode number 8. I'm up to 8. Figure I was going to start tracking how many of these I do. Just for grins, I guess you would say. All right. If you are new here, one of the things I think I'm going to start doing pretty regularly is looking at what is called the misery map on FlightAware. Let's go full screen. I enjoy this because it shows delays across the country. Last week was Thanksgiving here in the United States, and so I don't think travel was severely impacted by weather. Weather always impacts travel. Looks like today the miserable place to be is Seattle. Lots of delays. Thankfully for travelers, only one cancellation, but 45 delays out of Seattle right now. Looks like Dallas comes in second with 34 delays. No cancellations that I can see. Chicago O'Hare also being delayed, and I suspect Chicago's going to be the king later in the day when this stormy stuff, I don't know what direction it's going. I think I can hit play and we can watch this go through time. Looks like a storm is leaving the East Coast. There's a little bit of snow went through my area this morning. My car was all iced over. Yeah, so this Midwest storm over the Dakotas right now, that's going to hit Minneapolis, and I'll bet they're going to start seeing lots of delays later today. And then Chicago is probably going to get pounded. Detroit probably just move on through like storms do. And so if you are traveling through one of those territories, buckle up. Could be some delays. Probably plenty of de-icing going to happen in those areas. It is wintertime after all. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I always find that interesting. See what the state of the day is. The other kind of nerd thing that I've been looking at recently is the Artemis and the SLS. Discussed this a little bit last week. This is the real-time tracking map. And it shows where Artemis has been and where it is going, and it's pretty sweet. So this is the departure trajectory. I figured out you could click on these. So the outbound trajectory, correction burn. So these are all the various milestones of the mission. The little white dots. Let me get that moved. The orbit's been kind of pretty crazy. You kind of think it'd be fairly flattish for the most part. The return is where it gets kind of nuts to me. But let's see. Distant retrograde insertion. I thought it was going to go out and fly around the moon and just kind of orbit the moon. It's been doing all kinds of different maneuvers. I think that's part of the whole test program for the Orion. It's my guess, at least. Not really sure what the deal is. I honestly haven't really looked that closely into the reasons for a lot of these things. So the Orion right now is represented in this circle here. It is going to go back and do another moon flyby. So I expect it is... I think it's slowing down. I think when I opened this up a little while ago, it was 2,500 miles per hour plus, and now it's less than 2,500. So it seems to be slowing down a little bit. The burn back to the Earth occurs out here, and I think that's coming up. Or will be coming up in the next couple days. I don't know. But what that does is it shoots the Orion out of the plane of the ecliptic, I think is what you would call that. And shoots it back towards the Earth, where it will be splashing down somewhere in the Pacific. So if you are interested, there's all kinds of interesting animations, various cameras. From time to time, these do go live on YouTube. So if you are interested in seeing some live shots from the SLS, these are all computer generated. Check out this website. I will put the link in the description for today's live stream. So anyway, I'm nerding out on this stuff. You nerds. Anyway. I tried to get on YouTube the other day and look at some of the live stuff, and apparently I'd missed it, or they'd been going in and out of coverage, so I didn't actually get to see any, so that was kind of disappointing. Again, if you are interested in seeing some of the footage from the Orion and the SLS and all that stuff, it is on YouTube. There's quite a bit of stuff that various creators have put out there, so you can check that out. I highly recommend it if you are interested at all. There's a lot of controversy apparently about the launch tower, and it was damaged significantly by the SLS launch, so I think a lot more than they expected. It's a government program, so they'll just open up the pockets and fix it and not worry about maybe why it was broken. I don't know. I hope they kind of figure out what's going on there. And it could be that the Saturn V back in the day blew up the launch pad as well. I don't really have a recollection of that. I was not really aware of anything in those days, so too young. So that might be just part of the space stuff. I don't really know, but anyway, they didn't want people taking pictures of the launch tower, so it's probably been rolled back into the assembly building, and they're probably keeping it under wraps so they can do repairs on it. That's my guess, because I think the next launch is supposed to have people on it. I think that's it's like 24, so it's more than a year out, so they have time to figure that out. I don't believe they're doing another test flight. I think the next flight will be human powered. I think this test flight was to prove the whole deal. So all right, so let's move on to the articles. Looks like I got David and Jason. Welcome. Good morning, you two, or afternoon if you are David I think if I did my math right, it is 5 o'clock there? I think if I remember right from last time, 5 o'clock where you are, David. Good afternoon. It's past tea time, I suppose. I'm still working on my morning coffee. I ran across this blog. I was kind of doing some looking for articles, and I came across this blog. This is Ask the Pilot. It's like he's been doing a blog since 2002. And he starts his article, "Is it just me, or is the entire air travel experience broken right now?" So Ask the Pilot. I didn't really look into him. I'm assuming he is or has been an airline pilot, but anyway. The article reads, "Security lines are endless, terminals are noisier and more crowded than ever, airport lounges have become overcrowded feeding troughs, onboard service isn't half of what it was pre-pandemic, delays and cancellations are rampant, and so on. It's across the board." Yeah, I don't, his first paragraph there, I don't necessarily disagree with any of his premise there. I don't think I don't know. Excuse me. When I read that, it sounds pretty doom and gloom. I personally don't think it's that doom and gloom. I have noticed airport lounges are overcrowded. Delta is making some changes that, frankly, I'm not really happy with. I think the The money that airlines make on credit cards has really started the process of pushing someone like me who doesn't have the Delta credit card, for example, out of their lounges. They raised the prices on the membership, and they've also instituted a requirement where you have to be flying in their Economy Plus or Comfort Plus section or greater to get access to the lounge with a membership. So I normally fly Comfort Plus or greater with Delta anyway, so it shouldn't really affect me. But if I was looking to do a quick trip and save some money and do main cabin on Delta, I would not be allowed into the lounges after February. So I have to reevaluate that. I don't really want to pay. I have my American Airlines credit card that I pay for, and I have my Chase Sapphire card that I pay for. I didn't really want to pay for a third and American Express and pay for that too. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not really sure how that will affect me going forward, but stay tuned on that. So. He's only describing large herd, but yeah, I would agree with that. Most of the long line, I did see long lines trying to get into the American Express Centurion Lounge in Seattle. The Delta Lounge I was able to get right into last time I was there. So anyway, back to the article. Initially, as the COVID-19 fiasco, I think he exposes his politics there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm reaching there. Most of the trouble could be blamed on lack of staffing. Passengers came back faster than expected, and the industry wasn't ready. The resulting chaos was unpleasant, but it was expected to be temporary. Yet here we are on the cusp of 2023, and although things aren't as dysfunctional as they were 6 to 8 months ago, they still feel badly off kilter. I don't really agree with this. Honestly, I think there are pockets of problems here and there, but I traveled pretty much continually through the pandemic. I took 2 months off when it first kind of started, till we could get the lay of the land and see what was going on. But I started traveling regularly after that 2 months, and I didn't really see a lot. I mean, I hated wearing masks and the whole thing that you could take a mask off to eat or drink and then put it back on never quite made sense to me. Didn't really pass the sensible test to me personally. That's just me. So I've had the most delays I've had or problems traveling have been in the last month and over the last 2 years. So I don't know. Continue. What troubles me most is we seem to be resigning ourselves to it. I fear that we're plateauing at a sort of new normal, much as I hate that expression. It's worryingly apropos in this case. The traveling public seems to be shrugging its shoulders and adapting. Well, I don't know that we have a choice, I mean, unless you're an executive working for the airlines, and I think the airlines are trying to make money. That's their business. And if people are traveling and they're paying for it, I don't know. I don't really know what the expectation should be. I think post-pandemic, to think that things would just automatically be back to normal, I think is a little foolish. I think we're seeing a big boom in travel because people have really been, fearful and staying at home, and now time to get out in the world, and so they're going to travel. I think the market will correct itself, frankly. I think over time, the experiences and the airlines will remember that, oh yeah, we have to compete to get customers' business, and so I think that competition will improve the travel industry. I think that's historically what happens. So he says, it reminds me of what happened in the wake of 9/11. Initially, there were howls of outrage over the establishment of the TSA and the excesses of its policies. The agonizing lines, the illogical rules, and hostile enforcement. It simply wasn't sustainable, people declared. Things would mellow out in time, they said. They would have to. Except that's not what happened, really. Instead, we got accustomed to it. 2 decades later, security theater with all of its extravagant waste, and despite the millions of hours it steals from us each year, is simply taken for granted, and we endure it. Yeah. It's like putting I have a security system sign out in your yard. I think is a lot of it. You can call it security theater, but I think it is a deterrent. It makes it. I think there are dutiful TSA agents out there, and I think there are good employees and bad employees in every industry. So, do we endure it? Probably some of it, but I don't know. That's a very deep subject, and I don't think I really am interested in getting into that right now with anything. But I don't find it a big intrusion. Frankly, when you think about there are bad people in the world who want to do bad things, it was awfully easy for bad people to do bad things. I think making it harder is kind of the point of security in general. If a bad person wants to do a bad thing, they're going to, whether you are using a gun, a car, or an airplane. I think if a bad person wants to do something, they're going to do it, regardless of whatever rules you put around it. That's kind of my take. So, all right. Where and how things are wrong is easy to see, but let me cherry pick one example: onboard service. And Jason's here, so he can weigh in if you'd like. Food, wine, and amenities. If you ask me, service hit its nadir somewhere around 2004 in the thick of the post-11 industry downturn. The airlines were going bankrupt. One after another, in-flight offerings were scarce. But then things got better. It was a long, slow climb, but in 2019, premium cabins of the U.S. legacy carriers, the levels of luxury and pampering at long last rivaled the better Asian and European carriers. I didn't travel much back in those days, just a little bit for work. It's only been in the last 5 years that I can say, but I enjoyed traveling in 2019. My recent flight from Las Vegas to Seattle, I think I've done that before with Delta, and I got a meal, and this time I got a snack selection, multiple snack selections. So I was a little surprised there wasn't a meal on that. So maybe. Like I said, I think the industry corrects itself in a lot of ways. If you are trying to attract premium travelers, I think that's where most of the money is made. You're gonna need to provide them a premium experience. So I think that's why Delta is changing their club policies like they are. Because I'm just riffraff with a membership. Not that I'm bitter. I'm bitter about that, frankly. All right. In fact, air travel by that point had entered a whole new golden age. Service, safety, and convenience had reached unprecedented levels, and tickets were as affordable as they'd ever been. An achievement I celebrated in this New York Times article in 2007. So you work for the New York Times. Interesting. Then came COVID-19, and now the whole bar seems to have been reset. Today, even on long-haul flights, a first-class meal is often slung at you in a hurriedly on a tray, and they're giving out champagne in plastic cups at fares that aren't any cheaper. That just sounds like he had a bad flight, frankly, but will it get better this time as the industry regains its footing? I'm not so sure. I'm sensing this is more of a paradigm shift, a change of expectations, than a simple correlation between profitability and service levels. Customers are more or less happy with things Customers are more or less happy with things they are, I'm told. They are? That's a bad sentence. At least it's not 20, the thinking goes, when they got nothing at all. See, again, I really think the market corrects itself when you provide a poor product, whatever industry you're in, people will choose something else. As I've gotten older, customer service becomes more and more important. Having a flight, for me personally, the best flights I have are when I have engaged flight attendants. Those are my favorite flights, whether I'm getting extra service or not. My best flight last year was the flight from Dallas to Boise when the airplane had a toilet problem. Turns out that's my favorite flight of last year because the flight attendant, she and American has been made aware of this. Hopefully, made it back to her, but she went out of her way, got my special meal from the original airplane, brought it over to the other. She was super happy, friendly, even in the face of all of these really unhappy customers who had to change gates. We had to change concourses in Dallas, which is a big airport. So that makes people anxious, makes them grumpy. She maintained her professionalism and, very, very pleasant, very happy even in the face of all of these grumpy people. That's probably the best defense, frankly. I've never worked that level of customer service, but that was my favorite flight of last year, I think. Even more so than I really like Virgin Atlantic, and going to London was a great experience. But that particular flight, even in the face of being delayed and having those issues, was one of my favorites. Now, a couple gin and tonics on the flight doesn't hurt either, I will say. So a little liquid courage maybe makes me happier. But yeah, I thought that was a great experience, and kudos to American, and so that is again, I think, a direct connection because of the flight attendants. Now, if management is not creating an environment where flight attendants or service people anywhere, and I find this at a lot of restaurants I go to, management needs to be part of that process to make a good experience for the employee, and that trickles down to the customers as well. That's my opinion. Favorite restaurant in Las Vegas, Mon Ami Gabi. Always have great staff, and I think that's a function of really the management and the philosophy of the culture of that restaurant. So that's my take. So anyway, I'm kind of done with this guy. If you want to read the rest of the article, it feels a lot of like wah. So I'm so sorry that I have to fly regularly. Oh no, I am not. That's his. I am grateful that I get to fly regularly, and I enjoy it. So. Let's catch up on our chat. Let's see, I tried to build a new window. Let's see if this works. Nope, see, it's not showing the chat. I have a broken chat window. I can see the chat, but oh well. Sorry. I'll keep working on that. I thought there's a way that you can show the chat window, and anyway. Jason says, I went to Europe in September. It went well, even at Amsterdam, which was considered ground zero, although the KLM lounge was pretty crowded. Yeah, I find the lounges have been pretty crowded pretty consistently wherever I've been. I think that's just people, as I keep saying this, I think people are ready to get out and, be normal again. People have a lot of people in the world didn't travel for 2 years. Now they're like, I can travel again, and they're doing it. They're getting out there and they're seeing what they used to see and going to the places. And so I think that's a function of the bounce back from COVID. I really think that's just kind of how it is. David says, if a bad person is going to do something, blame the people who voted for him. You generally get more engaged staff on legacy airlines and with a higher average age. Yeah, that's true. I have found that the more experienced flight attendants, or those that I think are more experienced, tend to have a different level of customer service. Maybe that's a generational thing. I don't really know. But again, I often vote with I use my dollars to vote for good customer service experiences. That's where I typically spend my money. Lots of options to fly to London, and I chose Virgin Atlantic specifically because I had such a good time when I went with my wife back in, what was that, 2017, I guess. So we had a great flight on Virgin Atlantic, and I love British accents anyway. So okay, let's moving on to the next. This is not necessarily in line with all the Black Friday stuff I did last week. Got all kinds of ads. 4 ways to get free Wi-Fi on your next flight. I don't do a lot of Wi-Fi on my flights, but a lot of, I'm reading. It's funny, during the pandemic, there was a lot of discussion that business travelers would be going virtual. From some of the other articles I've read, that doesn't seem to be quite as much of a drop-off as was initially thought. So I think there's still a lot of business travelers are getting back out there on the road. So I see a lot of that when I was in the lounge. I was flying back on a Tuesday, and the lounge was full in Seattle, and there were laptops and people talking business all around me in the lounge. So with that in mind, a lot of those people are going to be wanting Wi-Fi. Connect for free on your next flight with these airlines, credit cards, and cell phone providers. Now, I found the headline to be a little bit misleading. Let's go full screen here. If I can get over there. For those planning to stay connected or get some work done in the air, as a former work traveler, I was never able to get much work done while flying, but maybe that's just me because I'm such an airplane geek. I like to look out the window too much. Anyway, in-flight Wi-Fi costs can really add up, with airlines charging by the hour or offering any number of prepaid packages. Needless to say, having to shell out more for Wi-Fi during a flight can be a real pain for leisure travelers and quickly become a major expense for frequent business travelers. Thankfully, there are a few ways to get around these extra fees, with more airlines offering passengers access to free Wi-Fi than ever before. Delta Airlines made news in November when it began offering complimentary in-flight Wi-Fi to all Delta SkyMiles loyalty program members, making it the first legacy carrier to do so. It's funny, they didn't tell me that. I have a Delta SkyMiles membership, but I don't remember seeing that. But of course, Delta does have seatback screens on just about every airplane. So for me as a leisure traveler, I don't find the need for Wi-Fi that often. And historically, you haven't been able to stream on them anyway. So, with a seatback screen, I haven't really had a reason to look. So, JetBlue, meanwhile, continues to be the only U.S.-based airline that offers free high-speed Wi-Fi via its Fly-Fi service to all customers. I've had mixed experience with JetBlue and their Wi-Fi. Again, they also offer seatback screens and TVs. So when you have a seatback screen, I think you're less dependent on that if you are not a business traveler. So at least that's been my experience. It turns out that there are other ways to dodge pesky Wi-Fi fees. Below, Select breaks down the best ways to avoid in-flight Wi-Fi costs on your next trip. All right, fly with airlines that offer complimentary Wi-Fi. They talked about Delta and they talked about JetBlue. American Airlines also seems to be testing out free Wi-Fi on many of its aircraft that are equipped with Viasat. As part of an ongoing trial, passengers who opt to watch a sponsored video can access 30 minutes of free Wi-Fi free of charge. Cool. Other U.S.-based carriers, such as Alaska Airlines and Southwest Airlines, let passengers send and receive messages for free via WhatsApp and iMessage. Alaska Airlines allows Facebook Messenger use as well, while free Wi-Fi is available on Southwest flights for A-List preferred loyalty program members. It's also worth noting that United Airlines allows its Mileage Plus loyalty program members to redeem 1,600 United miles instead of paying the usual $8 fee for in-flight Wi-Fi, $10 for non-members on domestic and short-haul international routes to Canada and Mexico. If you've got some United miles to burn, that could be an easy way to get around paying extra fees to stay connected while you fly. Interesting. As far as international airlines, Air New Zealand and Qantas on Boeing 738s and A332s, thanks to partnership with Viasat, each offer complimentary Wi-Fi on domestic flights within their respective countries. Is it Nok Air, a low-cost carrier based in Thailand, also provides complimentary in-flight Wi-Fi aboard its 737s, while Japan Airlines lets its passengers redeem 2,000 miles for an in-flight Wi-Fi coupon to use on international flights. Some international carriers offer free Wi-Fi, but with certain stipulations. On China Eastern Airlines and its subsidiary Shanghai Airlines, for instance, a free in-flight Wi-Fi trial is only available to the first 100 travelers who register up to 30 days ahead of the actual flight. While on short flights within Europe, aboard Norwegian Air's 737-800 aircraft, passengers receive 15 minutes of Wi-Fi for free. Yeah. Okay. So there's not a lot of free Wi-Fi out there. And then they get into credit card perks. Now, what's interesting to me, consider your card perks. And they offer, they make some statements here. I don't have all these credit cards, so I can't necessarily speak to the validity of what it all means. One that I do have a Chase Sapphire Reserve card. $300 worth of travel statement credits per year. Now that is not a Wi-Fi. That $300 covers travel expenses. Typically, on my first trip of the year, that $300 comes off of my airline ticket price. So, unless these statements are specific for Wi-Fi, reimbursement for up to $365 worth of $8 in-flight Wi-Fi purchases on Southwest, for example, it may just be a credit back to your account based on a travel expense. So, if you have one of these various credit cards, you may have this perk and you not know it. But again, if you're like me and you book flights, I use my Chase Sapphire for flights. I use that credit on my first flight of every year. So another way to get free Wi-Fi is to have elite status with Southwest, Emirates, Iceland Air, Singapore Airlines, Turkish Airlines, or Scandinavian Airlines, where you can enjoy complimentary messaging or free Wi-Fi access. So, if you fly if you're flying from the U.S. to Singapore regularly, it wouldn't take very long to get some status. That's a lot of miles. The other one that is becoming much more common, T-Mobile. T-Mobile is advertising, and I watched a thing on YouTube, maybe a month ago. It was maybe a month ago. Anyway, T-Mobile is going to partner with SpaceX to potentially provide, I think via Starlink, really high-speed Wi-Fi, satellite-based Wi-Fi. So T-Mobile's looking to do that. I don't know when that's going to happen, roll out. I did see SpaceX got approval for some more next generation Starlink satellites. So if you like watching Starlink launches, there's going to be a lot of them over the next couple of years. So Elon is looking to get his empire even bigger than just Twitter and the little bit of Starlink that he's got now. So, all right. Bottom line, while it may sound tempting to just fork over the $8 to $10 necessary to get your in-flight Wi-Fi fix, keep in mind that there are several things you can do to avoid these fees altogether by opting for airlines such as JetBlue or Delta, all already offering complimentary Wi-Fi, using certain credit cards or cell phone carriers, flying in premium classes, or maintaining elite status. You can easily wipe these charges from your travel budget and put that money toward a trip instead. I've also got another idea. This may be controversial to a lot of people in today's modern society where everybody has one of these. Bring a book. There's these places that are called libraries where you can actually go and you can get these things with paper in them in a book, and you can actually get that for free. So just saying. Of course, I'm a nerd. I have a Kindle. I have a book, Kindle book. So anyway, but read a book. Books are good. Let's check for chat here. David says, most airline Wi-Fi is expensive, so I have my larger iPad loaded with lots of movies, all types of genres, so I can change depending on my mood. Agreed, 100% agree with that. I recommend that for a multitude of reasons. I've been on flights where the Wi-Fi didn't work. seatback screens didn't work, so always have a backup, like a book. The only service I think should be free is messaging. You can message people if they're collecting you from your destination. Agreed. Jason says, my favorite trip report of yours when you flew with your two kids and you sat in the middle and the sharp elbows. Yeah. That was a good time. We were going to Vegas, if I remember correct. Take a Kindle. Yep. So the point is, have alternatives. I'll be flying to Hawaii at the end of the month. So I plan on reading and probably getting a couple beverages, maybe a Mai Tai on the airplane or two. I don't know how many I can get. And napping, because there's nothing to look at. When you're flying over the ocean, there's nothing to look at until you get to your destination. So, and I just happen to be flying to Hawaii on Southwest, and I've never done Southwest to Hawaii, so it'd be a good comparison. I think a lot of people are doing it, so I'm doing it for that reason, to provide some comparisons, as well as I'm flying with most of my family. So ticket price wise, it was really affordable. I was a little surprised how little it cost. I think it was about $500 each over New Year's. So I'll be spending New Year's in Honolulu. So that could be fun. It's going to be an ant pile. There's going to be tons of people there, but it'll be warm. I'm looking outside, and it's we had snow this week. It's all melted, but it's I think our high temperature is going to be like 35 today. I don't like winter. I'm really looking forward to a week in Hawaii where I can get in the ocean, sit on the beach, sit by the pool, just be outside and be warm. I'm looking forward to that. So I need to move to Florida, I think. I've reached that age where I think I need to live in Florida. My wife doesn't want to live in Florida, though. So Southwest Airlines is speeding up boarding using data science. It seems like the low-cost carrier is still being stubborn on not shifting from unassigned seating rules. One thing I've noticed since I started doing this weekly live stream is these headlines are typically not very accurate compared to what is in the meat of the article. So Southwest, when you read the article, and let's check out the article. For a low-cost carrier that still insists on unassigned seating arrangements, Southwest Airlines is giving another go at attempting to speed up the frustratingly slow process of boarding passengers. This time around, the budget carrier will use data science, and the trial attempts will be conducted at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport this month. For context, Southwest Airlines used to be famous for being able to turn aircraft around in 10 minutes, which sounds nuts to me. 10 minutes to turn an aircraft is amazing. Such a strategy was achievable in the early 70s when the low-cost carrier only offered around 14 daily trips between Dallas and Houston, 7 between Dallas and San Antonio, and had just opened new routes between Houston and San Antonio. So a 10-minute turn on that short of a trip, I don't know, maybe people aren't bringing stuff, so hey, there's a Max. Oh, I'm pretty sure we're flying a Max on the trip to Hawaii, so that would be my first Max flight as well. Back to the article. However, as the airline grew more significant and passenger demand surged higher, turn times have also changed for the longer, given how the airline's average during the pre-pandemic years was around 40 minutes. Still seems pretty good to me. While the airline still has some of today's quickest turn times for narrow-body aircraft operations, it's still a far cry from its early 10-minute turn. The massive difference comes from a mix of factors, especially from the boarding phase. I agree. Well, I could see where that would be the factor. One notable factor is how unassigned seating means that passengers are only given boarding positions and are frantic about preserving their positions. With such anxiety, there's typically some form of dashing toward the aircraft from the gate, as some try to beat others to their desired seats. I've never actually seen that. I fly Southwest pretty regularly, and I've never seen what this article is describing as people like run it. Let me put it this way: it doesn't explicitly state it, but I think they're talking about people getting their boarding pass scanned and then running down the jet bridge to their seat. I've never seen that. People just queue up and they go down and they wait in line and get their seats. Now, when I fly Southwest, depending where I'm going, I know I'm going to sit on the right side or the left side, depending on where I'm going. I try to always sit on the shadow side of the airplane if I can. If you're flying north to south in the morning, you want to be on one side to avoid the rising sun out of the east, right? So I sit on the other side, unless I want to see the sunrise specifically for some reason. Or unless I'm flying to a particular destination, say I'm flying into London and I'm hoping that we're going to be landing from the west, because if you're landing from the west and you're coming from the United States or coming from North America, you fly past a lot of the monuments parallel to the Thames before turning and landing west. So then you're going to sit on this could be the sunny side. Anyway, so this is some of the stuff that I think of. All goes into my boarding booking process, where I'm going to sit and all that stuff. On Southwest, where you don't get to pre-assign a seat, I think about that as well. Anyway, so there's a peek behind the disturbing curtain, maybe. But I've never seen anybody run down to their seat on Southwest. So. Another critical factor is sometimes the lack of an aero bridge. Sometimes doing boarding has intrigued plenty of snap-happy passengers, whereby they take time on their way to and from the aircraft to take photos and videos of whatever is happening on the apron. Okay. I like boarding I like ground boarding, but I don't. It's not that common, I don't think, anymore. And on those places, anyway. So far we've not a lot of what I think is kind of contrived context. I think every airline would like their turns to be shorter because airplanes make money when they're filled with people and they're flying from A to B, not when they're sitting on the ground. So I think that's pretty simple, straightforward there. The budget carrier has been trying various ways other than traditional boarding process to reduce its turn time, such as trialing dual boarding and deplaning approaches at significantly busier airports. I don't know how you do that at a busier airport. Airports are kind of designed for a one way to get on and off an airplane. So I don't know. To me, if you're Southwest, I always thought that they should board Southwest airplanes from the back, because then people would automatically go to the front, fill up the front to back, and because as it is, they're still filling up front to back, but they're boarding from the front, and so you're waiting for people to put their overheads in and all that stuff. So, but despite how dual boarding and deplaning have shown slightly quicker times, the allowance of using such a system does usually depend on the airport's facilities. Yeah, so the way airports are designed doesn't really provide for that sort of a model. Chief Executive Officer Bob Jordan agrees, as he feels the low-cost carrier needs to start modernizing and investing in more data science to iron out the boarding process. Yep. Yeah, okay. Using data science, Southwest Airlines can collect real-time feedback and monitor the boarding process as it carries out trial approaches, such as letting families board first and getting them to sit towards the back of the aircraft. I have mixed feelings about that. The budget carrier can also use data science and real-time data to better understand the best time for passengers to board or deplane, when the bottlenecks are likely to occur, and the factors that trigger them. I would think Southwest would have a slightly less onerous boarding process because they do free check bags. When you charge for a carry-on, that would seem to encourage people to check their bag. That's what the low-cost carriers, like Allegiant, they charge you more for a carry-on than they do for a check bag. I think they're trying to encourage you to check your bag, but I don't think that necessarily works. So they say they're going to collect data. With data science, Southwest Airlines can experiment with several tweak adjustments, but they don't really. That's why I don't like a lot of articles these days, because Southwest Airlines is not speeding up anything. They are trying to gather data that will allow them to speed up the boarding process. So, if the point of the headline was to get me, they got me. They got me to read their article. And that was a brand new article too. Southwest Airlines is doing analysis to speed up the boarding using data science. Would be an accurate headline here. So, bad on you. I feel like I got kind of bait and switched. All right. David says Southwest could speed up loading and unloading by using cattle prods. Motivates the passengers. It's funny because my wife, I probably make her fly Southwest more than she would prefer. She always calls it cattle class because you're lined up in your row to get on the airplane. So cattle prods, that's pretty funny. Maybe like a boarding collar, like a dog collar. Here's your boarding number. You get one of those things. It shocks you when it's your turn to get on the plane, or like when you go to a restaurant and you get one of those little like coaster looking things that will tell you when it's and it lights up and flashes and it's your turn to go. Maybe you get one of those when it's your turn to board the airplane. Maybe, I don't know. Not the most customer friendly though. All right. And I always like to have something a little bit different. This one is still travel related, but this is a collection of photos. Sheepdogs would work as well. Yeah. The problem with sheepdogs. So David has his comment was sheepdogs would work as well, but people like dogs. Most people, a lot of people, and so they would end up just petting the dog, and I think that would slow it down even more. So I like dogs. I'd pet a dog before I got on the airplane. Anyway, this is my last article, so let's go to annoying airplane habits that people should probably stop doing. So this one is this article just kept going and going and going, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but there are some of these that I've seen and some that I haven't seen. But in general, it's symptomatic. I find a lot of these symptomatic of people in today's world who tend to, I can't say everyone, but a lot of people, it's a me first mentality that a lot of people have. These pictures, in my opinion, demonstrate me first almost exclusively. Like this person, probably a young lady flopping her hair over her seat back. This is, I think, Singapore Airlines, honestly. This seat back looks very familiar to me. I think that might be a Singapore Airlines flight. Anyway, regardless, yeah, and the flight attendant here, that looks like a Singapore girl flight attendant outfit. So I think that's, anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, throwing your hair over the seat back, this appears several times in this particular article. I think it's... I can't imagine why you would do this, and not even think that you'd be impacting the person behind you. I'm baffled by that. I've seen versions of this before. Various people do various things with their baby. The worst baby experience I ever had on a flight, or saw on a flight, they were changing, the mom and dad were changing their child on the seatback tray. Just horrible. There's baby changing stations in the lavatories on the flights. I think every flight. Jason could probably confirm that for me. But just don't change. Just the things. The floor's not going to be super clean, I don't think, either. And you're putting your kid on the floor. I mean, other people use the trays. Just like, come on. Anyway, putting your baby on the floor, I don't think I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's a really bad idea. Please don't eat that. Bringing smelly food onto the airplane. Jason, I'm sure that you've had people do this regularly. I'm trying to remember where I was. I'm trying to remember what it was, but somebody, I as someone who brings a lot of their own food onto the airplanes, because I don't necessarily know that I can eat anything, I'm typically very conscious of the smells of things. From time to time, I've been known to eat corn nuts, but I find corn nuts to have a very strong scent, and so I try not to bring them on an airplane. I find pistachios don't have a lot don't smell. Personally, I don't think they smell. Maybe they do, and I don't know it. But I make a mix of pistachios and Skittles, and that's kind of like protein / sugar rush, and so I do that on airplanes quite a bit. So I'm conscious of. Maybe I'm rare that I'm aware of my fellow passengers. This is probably JetBlue, isn't it? The seat rest. It could be United. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But a lot of people bring, one that I don't really mind so much is pizza. I've had people bring pizza on a plane. I had a guy, that's what it was. A guy brought, I think in Seattle likes their garlic fries, and he had a burger and garlic fries. I like a burger and garlic fries, but it's really powerful when you're on a flight in an airplane. So yeah, I don't think that was probably the best idea. Anyway, but again, people are not necessarily. It's me first. So that's just unfortunate, but that's does happen. Don't get too comfortable. There's a lot of examples of this, these sorts of pictures in here. The seat back screen in front here is on, so I suspect there is somebody in that seat. And so basically every time the plane wiggles, you're going to be jostling their seat. My son can get a little wiggly on flights, and so I try to get a row where it's just us, so his wiggles don't impact other people. But again, a lot of people don't care. If you watched my trip report from this last week, the stinky shoe episode, yeah, don't take your shoes off. Suffer through it. Have hot feet. This is not acceptable unless you have rose-smelling feet, and most people don't. I don't think people assume. I think people assume, oh, I can do whatever I want. I'm on a flight. Yeah. I think everybody's probably seen this one in the airport. People unpacking their bag to make weight or looking for something. This picture, this person is clearly looking for something. Probably someone who doesn't travel a lot. Traveling is a skill like everything else, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. I always make sure I have my essentials in my carry-on bag. I don't pack anything that I consider essential. I should say in my personal item, because my personal item will go underneath the seat in front of me. If I have a carry-on, that goes up above. And a carry-on is going to be a mini suitcase in most cases. And so if you need anything in it, it should only be when you get to your destination, in my opinion. That's what this person clearly did wrong, and therefore they had to unpack inside the airport. Sorry about that. All right. Emotional support animals. Another one of my favorites. I had a flight on a CRJ 200 a while back. No, it was a 700 a while back, and a lady had an emotional support golden doodle, so a golden retriever / poodle mix. That's a big dog, and that's a really little airplane. I don't have an emotional support animal that I travel with. I don't currently need one. If I did need one, I would want all the rights to be able to bring one along. But a monkey, monkey is okay, I guess, whatever supports you. But I don't know about the emotional support animal thing. This is a version of getting too comfortable, taking off anything on a flight. Shoes, no. Shirt, this is a definite no. Don't get naked on an airplane of any amount. It's not good for anybody. Nobody wants that. Not a spa. Yeah, I've seen this quite a bit. Doing your nails, and that comes up again later in here. That's a really small airplane. If the person, that's a space invasion right there. This is all part of This also gets into reclining on airplanes as well. I wish airlines, frankly, didn't have seats that reclined. I think that would make it the most equitable and fair for everyone. I've discussed this in the past. I generally Only recline my seat when I'm on an international flight. If I'm on a domestic flight, I probably won't recline. And if I do choose to, it's not going to be all the way back because I try to, be somewhat aware of what's going on behind me. Putting your feet through the bar. There's a bar at the base of your seat that is supposed to block this. So this person clearly is a space invader, and I would probably do the passive aggressive thing and step on their feet. That's just me. I'm a small petty person sometimes, and I would probably do that. At least pretend to listen. I can't speak to this. This would be a flight attendant complaint. I think it's probably valid. I know when I was giving training, I used to train people back in the day. When I was doing my engineer thing, and one of my rules that I always had was when I was talking, your laptop was closed, because it frustrated me to no end to be up there and just talking to a room of people who were clearly not paying attention. So I get this one. Pay a little bit of attention. It's polite, and ultimately it could save your life someday. I complained about my my megaphone delay, but that's part of the safety rules as well. So, Cirque du Soleil. I think, what's funny? I think I've been on that flight, or I've been on a flight with these people. I can't remember where I was flying. I think it might have been one of my trips to or from. I think coming back from Paris one time. There was a lady. I think it was just a lady, but she was basically in the rear galley, doing some sort of yoga, I think. So it might have been these people. I don't know. But I don't have a huge problem with that one. Again, do you put your kid on the floor in general? I don't think you should do that. That's my take. Here's the whole recline thing. This is very controversial. A lot of people say it's my seat, it's my right, I can do whatever I want. There have been altercations on flights due to this. I don't think the seats are that uncomfortable that you need to do this. Like I said, unless you're on an international flight, and then it can get very uncomfortable. But on a domestic flight, I generally don't do it. Again, we kind of covered this, bringing your own food. Yeah, this is an interesting photo. Bring your corn. It doesn't look like it's cooked corn necessarily because it's still got the silk coming at the top. Anyway, cup of corn. Okay. Yeah. I'm not tall. I don't need the aisle to stretch out my feet, but I've had to step over people's feet in the aisle. Anyway, if you're 6 feet tall or more, do you have to do this? I think if you are that tall and you don't travel all the time, or you do travel all the time, I think you should be splurging for a seat with more legroom. So this is not an issue. That's my personal take. That's always been my take. Just because you're over 6 feet tall doesn't mean you get special permission to block the aisle. Yep. Doing yoga in your seat. Interesting. I'm not that never been that flexible. I've seen this concert on the airplane. Awkward at best. Trying to warm your pizza with the light. Bathroom. Wait till the aisle's clear to go to the bathroom, basically. Again, okay, couple things. Again, taking your shoes off and then putting your feet on the tray. No, that's. And I've been saving a response to David here, emotional support ponies. This person was wearing a horse mask, so I knew this was coming. So apparently this person is their own emotional support pony with a Bloody Mary, it looks like. Anyway. That's probably enough for today. Don't take pictures of the crew. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. Let me get back to my webcam. Hopefully you enjoyed some of those pictures. I will, as I said, put these links into the description for today's episode, so you can go back and look at them if you choose to. Thanks for watching today, and as I always like to say, happy travels, everyone. I'll see you next week.